You and I as brothers, if we've got a beef, we should take it offline. We square up man to man.
When my brother wounds me,
don't lash out.
Yeah, I have time. I have an opportunity to decide how I want to handle that.
The fragility of egos can really mess things up. The need to always be right can mess things up. Attacking the individual as opposed to dealing with issues.
It seemed like Elon was coming from a place of deep woundedness. Like he felt deeply wounded at a personal level. There's nothing that he said publicly that he could not have gone to Trump privately.
Honor in public, correct in private. Put the issue in front of you and stand shoulder to shoulder and face the issue together and never attack each other over the issue.
The discipline is missing. The integrity is missing. All of the things that we associate with great achievements, they seem to be missing in this fallout. Hello, I'm Khalil Osiris, coming to you live from the United States of America. And I'm very happy this morning to be on this podcast with my brother, my dear friend, Craig.
Hey, Khalil. My name is Craig Wilkinson, and just fantastic to be chatting again on this podcast. And we're calling it Let's Be Honest. And I think that's so pertinent. Let's just be honest, man. Let's tell it as it is. Good to be with you, brother.
Oh, brother, listen, for me, the whole idea of being willing to be honest about anything today is something that we really have to be serious about because there's so much nonsense happening, brother. There's just so much nonsense going on. And I think honesty,
and dishonesty too.
That's what I mean. The dishonesty that we're seeing everywhere. I'm of course, top of mind is this relationship between President Trump and Elon Musk. I mean, how can you not know about it, or at least be curious about what's going on in terms of the backstory? But what a brutal kind of breakup.
It's crazy, man. And Khalil, as we were chatting before this recording, just the incredible beauty and importance of relationship between men.
Yes.
Relationship between brotherhood. And I think we've lost a lot of that, And maybe, our producers put this little clip together. Maybe I should just show it up, in terms of the whole Trump Musk thing. But it really just highlights, firstly, the importance and power of relationship between men, particularly men of influence, and really how not to do it, it. And I think it'd be great for us to have a conversation, as brothers, and we walked the road together for quite some time. Just some of the key components of true, authentic brotherhood relationship between two men that really does work. But let's show this crazy clip here.
What went wrong between Donald Trump and Elon Musk?
Let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon. Now he is. Now he's an amazing guy. We were sitting together tonight. He's a special guy. He's a super genius. We have to protect our geniuses. We don't have that many of them. I just want to thank Elon and all of his people. Elon gave an incredible service. Nobody like him. The good news is that 90% of the country knows that, and they appreciate it.
After months of being close allies, the fallout between one of the world's most powerful men and the world's richest man has turned very public. Speaking in the Oval Office, Trump said,
Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if we're well anymore. He hasn't said bad about me personally, but I'm sure that'll be next. But I'm very disappointed in him.
And Musk posted on X saying, without me, Trump would have lost the election. Such ingratitude. Musk also posted this on X. Wow. This led Trump to reply that Elon was going crazy and he plans to sell his Tesla in the newest development.
Hey, Khalil. I mean, from hero to zero, from praising each other publicly to kind of completely dissing each other. I mean, it's just, it's so sad. And I mean, the fallout of that was, there's a saying in South Africa, in Zulu, that when the elephants fight, the grass suffers. I mean, when two giants fight, I mean, all those around. And it's the same as us too, as brothers, how do our relationship's important. Someone once said, and it's so important, that us as men, And I think it applies to women, but I think women are better at relationships generally than men, aren't they?
Yes.
There's less ego.
Certainly from a
there's more
communication standpoint.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
But the reality is, we as brothers will never reach our full potential without each other, without brothers standing with us. No soccer match was ever won by one individual. In fact, the soccer matches that the teams that are the worst are those that might have gifted players, but they never pass the ball. No war was ever won, without the brothers. And the experiences we've had. I've been in the military.
Of course, with us.
Brothers are everything. And so. It's just so important that we get this relationship right.
Well, I look at what's happened in the media between President Trump and Elon, and the thing that really struck me was it felt like, it seemed like that Elon was coming from a place of deep woundedness. Like he felt deeply wounded at a personal level. Yeah. And you would think that someone who, of his level of accomplishments, the things that he's achieved in the world, speak to having incredible discipline. Yeah. It speaks to having incredible focus and clarity about one's purpose, one's task at hand. Yeah. And so for me, when I'm looking at how horrible the relationship has become, there's just the discipline is missing, the integrity is missing, all of the things that we associate with great achievements, they seem to be missing in this fallout. And so that just reminds me on a personal level of how important it is for me to be reflective about how I respond when I'm wounded, when my brother wounds me.
Don't lash out.
Yeah, I have time. I have an opportunity to decide how I want to handle that.
So important that. So important.
And it's critical to use that as a tool and as an asset, as something that in your life that you rely on, so that you can be a better human being. This isn't just a conversation about politics. And I know, we've already said that in our sidebar conversation that it's so important that we move beyond simply being able to, getting locked into political positions.
Absolutely.
Around things like this, especially.
Yeah.
But we know it's political. We get it. Yeah. But what's the human element here?
But that's the most important side, because if we politicize everything, we dehumanize it, don't we? We start to demonize each other. We start to see each other as wrong or right based purely on our politics and not on the actual truth of the situation. There's a principle, Khalil. I love what you're saying there. It goes to personal responsibility. It goes to the fact that there are only two things that I have 100% control over in my life, and it's my attitude and it's my actions. And if I just react, if I just spontaneously lash out as a result, I'm going to get it wrong, man. But if you as a brother hurt me, and before I lash out, before I respond, I process it, I think about it, I calibrate my response, that's going to get the best results. There's a beautiful saying that says, honor in public, correct in private. Honor in public, correct in private. You and I as brothers, if we've got a beef, we should take it offline. You and I chat about it. We square up man to man over a whiskey or a beer or a coffee, whatever our beverage of choice is.
Yes.
And we have it out, man. But we don't allow that to affect our families. And I think the more powerful you are, the more influential you are, the more important it is to never make a public affair out of issues, and also, deal with the issue and not the person. Don't you think that's important? Yes. The issue was the great big beautiful bill. And again, we're not being political, whether you like it or not. I'm not going to comment on that, but that was the issue. The issue was the bill, but Trump made it personal. He started attacking the
Elon.
individual. Yeah.
Elon did.
Sorry, Elon did. Elon Musk.
Yes,
Made
Elon
it
did.
personal.
He
Instead of just
personalized.
dealing with the issue.
I think speaking to the human side of this, the kind of the personal aspect of this, for me, I think of the picture of Elon's son on his shoulders, with Trump and the White House. I mean, that whole scene where I can just see this, how a little boy like that could be really excited and actually find himself asking his father the question, Daddy, why can't we go back, or why, and I know that at some level, Elon must be deeply disappointed with himself.
Yeah.
As a human being and as a man, because there was nothing, there's nothing that he said publicly that he could not have gone to Trump privately.
Exactly.
And raised as an issue.
Yeah.
And that's where the reason also that this situation so resonates with me is because many years ago I had a mentor who was just an incredible human being, and he took a great deal of time with me to kind of guide me on some things, help me. And this was while I was in prison and I was working on my master's degree. And this guy was an incredible help, but he had never gone to university himself.
Right.
However, he was brilliant. And so in the course of our relationship, there was an incident where he said something that I took such offense with that, I just lashed out verbally.
Yes.
But I so deeply regretted that over the next couple of days, because I didn't even speak to him. Like I was so dug in my position, I wouldn't speak to him or anything. But deep down inside, I knew that I was wrong.
Yeah.
Deep down inside, and there were guys who took my side and all of that, but deep down inside, I knew that I was wrong. And so eventually I went back and I apologized to him. I shared his name was Richard. I said, Richard, I am actually deeply sorry for the way that I spoke to you. He was older than me. He actually was like a father figure, not just a mentor.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, I feel as though I have done something to you that is as hurtful as if it would have been my father, if you would have been my father. Wow. And I really want you to know how deeply I regret this, saying those things to you and about you. And he said, Khalil, he said, here's the thing. Friendships are like a tree. And when you do things such as you did yesterday, that I had said, it's like taking an axe to that tree and chopping off the bark of it. He said, now what's going to happen is that bark will grow back over it, but it can never be the same tree. It can never be that tree. And so you need to think about that as you go forward, because you're going to have situations where there's going to be a likelihood that you'll pop off.
Yeah.
And what you can destroy doing that, I can't tell you today, but I will share this with you in the same way that you're coming back, apologizing. I forgave you. I understand. He said he never took it to heart because he knew I was out of control. But that kind of openness and absolute accountability, he was telling me, hold myself accountable. Hold me accountable. And it was not enough that I simply went to him and apologized. For him, the greater lesson was, how will I behave going forward?
Right. He used it as a teaching and a training moment for you.
An incredible training, incredible teachable moment for me in my life.
And Khalil,
I carry that.
And you're a better man for it. And
Absolutely.
every relationship going forward. It brings me to that point of, there's that biblical verse that says iron sharpens iron. And I think one of the key elements of brotherhood is we sharpen each other, if you as my close and dear friend and brother see me doing something that, is not cool,
Yes.
it's you gift me
I
by
have a
calling me out.
responsibility. Yes,
You have a
absolutely.
responsibility, and it's a tremendous gift to me if you point it out to me. Say, hey, Craig, I see you doing this, and you're not being your best self, brother.
Yes.
Shift. And I mean, it's a far greater gift than if you just compliment me and say, hey, dude, everything's cool, everything. But and the essence of relationship. I mean, you and your mentor, we are our relationships.
Yes, we are.
We don't exist in isolation. And when we start putting ego and pride above relationships, we really are shooting ourselves in the foot, aren't we? And I
Yeah,
think
it's
that
sad.
clearly when Musk started getting very, they said he went nuclear, but he got personal. He got
Yes,
vindictive. I mean, he's putting the flame to something that's so much more important than his own ego. And I think as brothers, we got to do that, man. We got to say, well, Khalil, my relationship with you is far more important than my ego or my pride
yes,
or even being right.
of
I'd rather
course,
be wrong and have a good relationship than be right and be estranged.
brother. We see it happening all the time
Mm.
around issues of money and
Yeah,
power
yeah,
and
yeah,
politics. It's a kind of tribalism, modern day tribalism, as you call it.
yeah. It is.
Um, Not being so
Mm.
caught up in a narrative that you don't make any room for the other person to
Yeah.
fail, to be wrong,
Mm.
and be okay, and
Yeah.
grow. And you've acted, when we get in these tribes like this, and we're locked into, we've got to be the one who's right.
Yeah.
No one else is right. We're the ones who's right. Because
Yeah.
this was about the when you look at a relationship between brothers, men who commit themselves to being the best
Mm.
they can for themselves and to each other. That's a powerful kind of relationship to have.
It's beautiful. It's a
It's
necessary relationship.
Yes, it's essential to our own growth. It's essential to our own
100%.
development.
Yep. Yep.
So if we don't want to do that work, that very fundamental work, then all of those other things we achieve, and clearly, Elon himself has achieved. We can't even put a limit on it at this point because
It's
he's still
almost
going.
it's almost unworldly what he's achieved. I mean, it's
Yes,
almost alien. It's unbelievable.
yes,
It's phenomenal. Yeah.
and that's the contradiction.
Yeah. It is. It is. Yeah.
The contradiction to be that evolved on one hand and that immature on another.
Yeah. If you look at most men who go wrong, and it is men in leadership, and you see it in the church, and you see it in government, and you see it in
Yes.
business. They isolate themselves. They begin to believe their own PR. They don't.
Yeah.
They surround themselves with yes men. They're friends with people who agree with them. And I think
Yes.
that's such a big error, man. I mean, we need we need brothers to call us out, to bring us down to reality. To say, hey,
Yeah,
dude,
of course.
you're behaving like a dick here. Stop it.
Yes.
Unless
Just
we have that,
cut it out.
we start to believe our own bullshit
Yes.
and get totally out of control. We all so desperately need that. We really do, and it's a beautiful gift to give each other, and it's a really important humility aspect to be able to accept criticism and accept correction. Like you went to your mentor and said, I'm sorry, man. I mean, you got to a point where I was wrong, and I need to
Yes.
admit that. And that's
Yeah.
the real growth.
And that is the hard stuff. That's because I look at my journey, and the most influential relationship, the most impactful relationships that I've had. And I reflect on where I am today in terms of understanding the value of those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I've grown to appreciate every relationship I have much more as I become more self-reflective and see how much
Yeah.
work I've got to do to show up with my
Mm.
best self.
Right.
So when someone else is showing up with their best self, it takes work.
Yeah.
It takes work
It
because
does.
we don't automatically have the kind of clarity and maturity
No.
that comes with the challenges and mistakes and the obstacles and the
Yeah.
barriers and all that other stuff, the
No. No.
messiness.
Yep.
So we know the mess is there, but as brothers, as we should always be open to making space for reconciliation. Number one,
Yeah. Which means putting beside
reconciliation.
the ego, doesn't it?
You have to.
You have to.
You,
You absolutely have
yeah,
to.
because
Yeah. I mean,
you're not your ego. You're more than your ego.
well, and if you're not, you're far less than you need to be, or less than you could be. You never ever realize
Yes.
potential. I mean, the tip of even that Maslow's hierarchy of need, the top is when you start to self-actualize, you start to really live with a sense of purpose. And I mean,
Yes.
I like what you're saying there too. I mean, both of us are well over 50, and I
Yes.
mean, as a youngster, you often haven't learned these lessons. You
Yes.
criticize and you judge because you haven't been through the messiness of life.
Yes.
The divorces, the struggles, the brokenness,
Yes.
the mistakes, and through that there's a tremendous amount of humility. But man, the brotherhood for me is such an invaluable component of life.
Yes.
I
Absolutely.
mean, life is a battle, and if you go to battle alone, you're not gonna win. If you go battle with some brothers who shoulder to shoulder, and you've got each other's backs, and you've got each other's
Yes.
best interests at heart, and you call each other out, and
Yes.
you strengthen each other, and you say, I mean, you're going to go so much further, so much further.
And I think that the process of building healthy, really, really purpose-driven, intentional relationships.
Yeah.
The fact that we at this stage in our lives, mentoring means being intentional about relationships.
Yeah. Very much so.
That's the essence of mentoring. That you have reached a level of maturity.
Yeah.
That you are able to be intentional about how you interact with another person who you hope to help be their best.
Fantastic. It's a two-way street. I'm better because of you, and you're better because of me. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? The ultimate goal.
And that's what healthy relationships look like.
Absolutely.
That's because a lot of times people say, well, what is it? People it's like we're confused about how to be decent human beings.
Yeah. But
it's never
Khalil,
it's never complicated.
It's not when you get to the essence. And I think a lot of friendships are based on convenience, aren't they? We have fun together, we hang out together, we do whatever, we play a game together, we have a beer together. But when it gets down to it, are we really checking in with each other? Do I really know what Khalil's going through? His deepest struggles. Do you know, and that kind of brotherhood is invaluable, where I'm not just hanging out with you because it's fun and convenient. I mean, that's a very important part of it. But I'm going much deeper. I'm saying, hey, dude, I mean, how are you really doing? And they say one of the biggest lies that men tell is, I'm fine. I'm fine. So, hey, brother, how you doing? Hey, I'm cool, man. I'm cool. How are you? I'm good, man. I'm good. Meanwhile, we're not, And I mean, those brothers who truly, truly know you, get you, actually take the time to first ask the questions and then listen. I mean, that's an invaluable gift to each other.
There's no doubt about it. And as you have an opportunity to have those kinds of meaningful relationships, you become much more aware of the responsibility that each of us have. To show up with honesty, with just the honesty that we are not okay when we're not.
Yes.
We need help when we do. And we want to be a helping hand when we can.
Wonderful.
So
I mean, that's
what
the
life's
all about. That is the work.
And you don't need a degree to do that. You don't need any kind of
no, you don't.
college degree to do that.
It's basic humanity, isn't it? But Khalil, I mean, you and I know this. I mean, being in the military, having been incarcerated,
Yes.
I mean, we have dealt with egos, man. We've dealt with macho. We've dealt with guys that will never ever admit to being down or sad or out. Or I mean, the masquerading and the posing.
Yes.
I mean that's just the way of men, isn't it? So sadly.
Yes.
But what that does is it masks who I really am. It masks what I really can contribute to the world. And when you go through that and beyond that and just get down to the nitty gritty of it, when we see each other at our worst and our best, and we still love each other and we're still there for each other, and we don't take, we don't allow each other to be second best. We say, hey, Khalil, you're better than that, brother. You're better than that, I mean, at the gym, it's a great example at the gym. I mean, when we used to pump iron, I mean, when you're doing that bench press, when your mate's there, you put on an extra bar.
Absolutely.
And the guys say, hey, come on. I mean, you achieve so much more.
Absolutely. And you're because the relationship is the mirror. It's a mirror you can look into and see parts of yourself that can only be seen through relationship.
Absolutely.
If there's no other way to see those aspects of yourself except that someone else reflects to you what it is that's happening as they experience you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it brings me to that point of what we as men are bad at doing is honoring each other. I think our love language often is to rip each other off, to tease each other. I mean that's cool. It's fun. I think it's beautiful. But what we don't do is honor each other. I mean, for me to look at you and say, hey, brother Khalil, man, I truly honor you, brother, for your resilience, for your ability to work through hardship and come out a better person. I mean, there's so much in you that I see that I admire. And how often as men do we do that to each other? Actually take the time not just to call each other. I mean, I think those are the two gifts. The one gift is I'm going to have the hard conversations with you because I love you. If I see you being second best, I'm going to have the hard. I'm going to say, Khalil, this is not the best you. That's the one side. We call each other, we sharpen. The other side is we honor each other. We say, brother, I really admire and respect and appreciate you, man. I mean, and if we can do those two things, I mean, man, what a gift. How we could sharpen each other and inspire each other to be our best. And yet, sadly, so many friendships are so superficial, and they're just built around fun, drinking.
And a bunch of simple stories that most of which aren't true. Most of which isn't even true. But I think, brother, when you have a really deep brotherhood and friendship like you and I have developed, what happens is when you are in those moments of great challenge, it comes to you. The depth of those relationships, the power and the light, the guidance of those relationships will help you. And that was why I said at one of my most difficult moments when at a place where I was wounded, probably the worst I have in my life was the death of my son. And you, as I shared with you, I actually thought of you. And because I was looking at, I was being reflective about how to handle this really. And the last, like we hadn't even been talking for a while, but you came to mind, and I flashed back to us and seeing you mentor these young men, these in a rural village of South Africa. All of the effort that you made, I know personally because I watched you, and how you took things there, everything that was done. And I all of that came to me, and I just, in my soul, I knew that I had to be my best in this moment.
Sure.
I knew that I had to draw on the strength that was there for me, that had been planted in me through our brotherhood.
Right.
through that light. And that for me is what true brotherhood and friendship is
Absolutely.
about.
Absolutely.
To take that into our deepest woundedness
Yeah.
and find a way to heal, to go forward.
Yeah. It's truly, truly beautiful. I think the relationship that a man has with another man, and I'm not talking romantic, I'm just talking a brotherhood,
Yes.
is very different to the relationship you'd have with a woman, whether it's
Yes.
a partner or even a friend. But there's something tremendously powerful about that. Something, that a brotherhood brings that
Yes.
we would definitely not be our best selves without that. And I'm really, I mean, both of us are really
Yes.
passionate about modeling that and promoting that and helping men to find that. Because, Khalil, I mean, you're aware of the research. The research around the world is that most men are lonely. Most men are
Yes.
quite lonely. It's not that they don't have a bunch of mates that they can have a drink with and, watch a game with, but it's that they don't have a bunch of friends or even one or two or three brothers that there's a true sense of brotherhood. There's a
Yes.
knowledge of each other. There's a love for each other. There's a lack of jealousy. I'm not jealous of you. I know that
Yes.
you have gifts that I don't have. I have gifts that you don't have. And together, when we
Yes.
combine those gifts, we're both better for that, So I'm not jealous of you. I delight in your success. If you're able to afford a brand new Porsche, I mean, instead of me being jealous, Khalil, man,
Yeah.
I rejoice for you. When your
Yes.
relationships are going well, I'm happy for you. So there's no jealousy. If there's competition, it's healthy competition. It's not like,
Yes.
we will have an arm wrestle, but if you're stronger than me,
Yes.
it doesn't matter. It's just that,
No.
it's a brotherhood type of thing. I think those relationships are absolutely invaluable, and they're sorely lacking internationally,
Oh,
because of the
definitely.
things like ego, because of the things like a fear of being vulnerable. If I share my vulnerabilities, I'm scared that that you're going to think I'm weak, or I'm going to think I'm weak.
Yes.
These are the things that destroy. And if you look at if you're going back to the Musk Trump thing, the fragility of egos can really mess things up. The need to always be right can mess things up. The attacking the individual as opposed to dealing with issues. The beautiful example about, if you've got an issue, and even if it's a disagreement, put the issue in front of you and stand shoulder to shoulder and face the issue together, and never
Yes.
attack each other over the issue. Help deal with
Yes.
it. And even if you disagree, that's also cool. I mean, you and I are not going to agree
It's
on everything, and
okay.
it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, so these male friendships are, we really need to grow them, to encourage them, to model them, because they're
And we need,
invaluable.
and that is the failing, that the challenge, I won't even call it the challenge that we are faced with. And I think of young boys uh, finding their way, and how difficult it could be when you're locked into ideas about what a relationship should even be. How can, I mean,
Yeah,
if the only place we can be friends is on the basketball court or on the football
right.
field or at the bar, that alone tells
There's no
you
depth.
that there's more work to be done. There's no depth there,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that is not that is not going to give you any kind of any kind of any kind of sense of security when the
yeah.
problems come.
Absolutely. You're
There's
alone.
because
You're alone.
you
Yeah,
haven't built the relationships
yeah.
to help you be healthy.
Yes, yes.
So I just brother, when I think about our relationship
Mm,
and the fact of how we're on different continents,
mm,
and when we met, the alignment in our values, our the things that we think are important, the work that we are both doing, the ability to see each other as the person that we're
mm.
aspiring to be, and to want to be a part of making sure that each of us achieve that.
Fantastic.
that work, that commitment, that sense of belonging is really what these relationships are about.
Yeah. It's
And that's
priceless, isn't it?
you cannot buy that.
No.
You
No.
cannot force someone to be in that space.
No.
This is
Do you
ownership
remember?
Do
you remember, brother, when we were in a very poor community at a school, a high school, speaking to a group of boys in an impoverished classroom,
I remember
and
it distinctly.
that was tear jerking. I mean, those boys, remember standing with their
Remember we
fists
had
on
the
their
food
chests.
I know it.
They were just, and we were able to instill in them a sense of pride in being a man.
Yes.
And to say to those young men, that you as a man are designed, made, mandated to be a gift to humanity, never let anyone, but telling them you can also make the wrong choices. You can also be a curse, Are you going to be a blessing to the world? Are you going to be a curse? I mean, do you remember their response? I mean, the look in their eyes as they
Their
stood
eyes,
there,
the intensity, the
because no one
clarity.
had spoken to them like that. No, people
Yes.
had demonized them. People had told them, "Oh, you poor, you have a bad background, you drugs, etc." But to be able to, as two older men, just say to them, "Guys, man, you're designed to be." I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. The mind shift that we
Yeah.
could see happening in that experience with them.
Yeah.
And that's why
Beautiful.
I say I look, but I watched you do that all over the country, all over South Africa, brother.
Yeah.
I watched you do this work with young men, many of whom had never had developed a relationship of brotherhood, and
Yeah.
certainly not with a white. And
Yeah.
for you to go to them, not wait for them to come to you, but the fact that you made it your focus in your work to go to the most rural villages where there was the least amount of resources. And I remember how you bought the food and the things that you did and made sure that those young men had something to eat, and many of whom hadn't eaten in a day or two.
Yeah.
And who ultimately shared that with us. So and for you to do that out of your own pocket, that's the other part of this. This is you spending your money and your time to do this work. You were doing that. I can't tell you the depth of the impact of that on me witnessing it, because again, that's the part of my story where I know as a father, I wasn't there for my son in the very way that you were showing up for young men whose fathers were absent. So I had a bird's eye view. I had a chance to do something that many people never get a chance to do. And that is to come full circle with the harm they've done, which is the harm I did to my own children, my own sons. And to then see the kind of men who stepped in to say to them, we're not going to allow your father's imprisonment to be an excuse for your failure.
Yep.
And have those kinds of men present that I knew had to be there, but I never met. I was in prison. So now watching you, I'm seeing it unfold. It's like God has given me an opportunity to witness this and heal at a much deeper level. Those are things you can't buy that. You have to be committed to being a better person, a better human being. And recognizing that there will be people in your life that will reveal to you what that looks like.
I mean, life is not a textbook, is it? It's not something you can read and learn theoretically. I mean, it's something that, and I mean, Khalil, the work you're doing now with previously incarcerated individuals
Yes.
is exactly that. I mean, the statistics around men who've been incarcerated who haven't had a father or have had an abusive father or a bad relationship with their father is just through the roof. The correlation between fatherlessness and bad fathers and incarceration is just incredible. So, I mean, these guys coming out of prison have often been unfathered, unmentored, unloved, not known the protective, disciplining, relationship with men that we all need, and they come out with a label on their head. You're an ex-con, and I mean the work you do with them to both in corporates and with them, both sides of the coin, in saying, well, let's give these guys a chance. These are not bad men. These are wounded men who've come through a process, who are now better men, and let's give them a chance. Let's take the label off their head. Let's say this is not an ex-con. This is a beautiful human being. This is a man. And as a man, I'm going to help that man, and I'm going to mentor that man, and I'm going to try and make a pathway for that man to be reintegrated to society so that he can have his dignity restored. He can have an opportunity. He can be the man he was designed to be, but, went off track because of a whole bunch of things. That's beautiful work, Khalil. I mean, and that's work you could not do without having been through the fire yourself, and knowing it. So, I mean, I just love that redemption. And look, there's something that men can impart to men that only men can impart to men. That a woman cannot. I mean, a woman can do. A women are phenomenal. I mean, we couldn't live without them, and we equal partners in co-creating as well. So I'm not dissing that, but there's something very special and beautiful and powerful about what a man can impart to another man, in terms of his self-esteem, in terms of his discipline, in terms of his just willingness to pitch up, and that's a very, very beautiful thing. And
it happens. It's natural. It is a natural occurrence.
Yeah.
It unfolds in us. We are just at a natural level. We look up to our parents.
Yeah.
At the most basic, natural, fundamental level as human beings. No matter who you are, there was a point at which you looked up to your parents, to those around you. And you had a perspective of looking up. It wasn't just that you looked up, but there's a perspective that comes from the angle in which you see things.
Yeah.
And so metaphorically, to grow from that and yet to remain at a place where your humility allows you to see the genius and the greatness and the beauty of every other human being around you.
That's
that.
So, Khalil, I mean, how do we this world's become so polarized, I've traveled in the US quite a bit, but looking at the US from the outside, I mean, it's never been more polarized.
I absolutely agree.
If you're on the right, someone on the left cannot see any good in you. You're the devil incarnate. If you're on the left, I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, racially, it almost looks as though racial tensions are higher than they were 10, 15 years ago. I mean, and I look at the rest of the world too. There's such, I mean, how do we bring humanity back? How do we bring the fact that, man, you might vote for someone different than me. You might have a different worldview, but you're still human. I'm human. We're of equal value, I mean, we got to bring that healing, man, don't we?
And that, you know what, brother, the point that you're making now is one that for many people, they feel overwhelmed by the circumstances of the world, of the community. The polarization is so intense right now that many people just don't have the energy, courage, or willingness to tackle it. And I think, for me, the answer is this. Each of us have a little bit of power to use in the best possible way when we choose to.
Yeah.
And for each of us, we have to see ourselves as being responsible for what we say and what we do.
Yep.
Now, if from our most personal kind of position and perspective, we make room for another human being to have a different perspective than our own.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Without demonizing them for the difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we have a very simple pathway to healing, to building healthier
Absolutely.
relationships. But
Absolutely.
we're so caught up in needing a complicated answer that we overlook the most simple solution that's hidden in plain sight.
Yeah.
It starts with us. It starts with each one of us.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced that the energy for good is abundant. It is exceedingly abundant. There's no end to it. We can never exhaust it.
But we need to choose it, don't we? Is that what you're saying?
But we have to. We have to be intentional about the fact that others can be right. And even when they're wrong, and we say they're wrong, it's okay too.
Don't you love? I mean, I think we alluded to this in a previous chat, but I love what Morgan Friedman said. He was being interviewed by some guy, and he said, how do we end racism? And he said, I tell you what, it's very simple. You stop calling me a black man, I'll stop calling you a white man. And I think if we do that, if I stop calling someone a Democrat or a Republican or a woman or a American or a Mexican, I mean, before any of that stuff, let's see each other as human beings, and yes, you might disagree, but that's fantastic. Someone also said, if two people agree completely on everything, one of them's unnecessary. We need that diversity, and so if we just start seeing each other as human beings, that
and brother,
starting.
The whole idea of, how difficult it is for us to have an honest conversation. It's just first of all, it's a conversation. We should be able to talk. And in the conversation itself, we should be able to talk about anything.
Yeah.
And in a healthy sense, in a healthy relationship, you can talk about differences without being offended.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If a child asks me, is there racism? My answer is going to be very, very important if I think about the impact that it could have on the view that this child is going to develop. And if my son or daughter, they ask me, say, well, is there racism? First of all, I've got to be willing now to talk about it in a context that helps them not get locked into a particular position.
Right.
And I'll go even further than that. When I was in prison, my son asked me, Dad, did you do these things? Are you guilty? He wanted a straight answer from me.
Yeah.
And I said, son, I did those things and I did worse. And I'm responsible for what I've done. Yeah. I'm guilty for having committed these offenses. And I don't ever want to lie to you. I don't ever want to be dishonest with you about what I've done, because I know I'm better than that. And I know that every single day I'm not that anymore, son. I can have that kind of conversation with him, starting from the place of being absolutely responsible for what he has witnessed, what he's questioning me about.
Yeah.
So, and that's just one small example. And obviously, people who operate in different spaces will argue that you can't have that kind of clarity, or you can't have that kind of honesty and integrity because people will run over you. Well, again, this comes down to, what is it that you value? Who are 100%. You? What do you value here?
Yeah.
I value a level of honesty with my son.
It's invaluable.
More. Yes. I didn't want to play the script Craig,
No,
of,
no.
oh no, the system was rigged, son. Anytime
Mm.
something happens, you're going to get locked down over
Mm.
anyone else. We've heard that script,
Mm.
and I'm not negating it. I'm not dismissing it.
Sure.
All I'm saying is, in my case,
Mm-hmm.
I had to be honest
Right.
and look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And that honesty is the kind of honesty that I've been able to have with you as a brother,
Mhm.
as a friend, and
Yeah.
as a man who I look up to and share mutual respect with.
Yeah.
This is what healthy relationships can look like.
100%. And the impact of those relationships is way beyond just you and I. I think when
Yes.
men have those kind of, their families benefit, their communities benefit, the world benefits because it's
Yes.
authentic, it's real. We're better because of it. we don't let each
Yes.
other get away with any crap that if you're isolated. I mean,
Yes.
and we're better and the world's better because of it. And so
Yes.
I'm excited about the journey that the work that we're doing, both in South Africa and the US, around promoting this kind of authentic, deep, proper, true relationship, about being able to deal with
Yes.
contradictions in our worldviews, about being able to disagree, but in a healthy, wonderful way, which grows us. And even if, two people can't win each other over to their way of thinking, so what? They can walk away still respecting each other and
Absolutely.
still building a great future. And that's
It's
exciting,
powerful,
Khalil. I mean,
brother.
it's exciting what we're doing.
That is, for me, I remember that you and I have talked about, I mean, the sessions that we had on the from before, much earlier, where we were just sitting down, just talking
Yeah.
and just recording those conversations. For me, those conversations are conversations that all men should be having with each other.
Absolutely.
It's really, these are the kinds of conversations
Yeah.
that we should be intentional about having with
Mhm.
each other on some level. And the reason I'm saying that is because the purpose of our podcast, I mean, let's be honest, is for us to be able to say these things and
Yeah.
model it and invite other men to do the
Yeah.
same,
Yeah.
to begin their conversations
Yeah.
around issues that are impactful for them, to
Yeah.
be inspired to do truth telling at the deepest possible
Oh,
level.
it's so healing. So healing.
The fact that we're able to talk at this level of depth and honesty and know that whatever we say, at the end of the day, we still belong to our brotherhood,
Yeah.
that we are still
Yeah.
committed to each other's
Yeah.
belonging
Yeah. There's a
above
safety
any
there.
words. Yes, of course. Of course. And that's something you cannot underestimate the value of.
No, you cannot. Well, I mean, it's quite good to see after all that Elon and Trump are kind of making up.
Look, I wish him well. You understand. We had a good relationship, and I just wish him well. Very well, actually.
The key to Donald Trump's heart may well be deleting these tweets because now President Trump and Elon Musk are singing a very different tune. Elon Musk has deleted all the slanderous tweets against President Trump.
The Tesla boss, Elon Musk, has apologized for posts he made about US President Donald Trump. Writing on his platform X, Mr. Musk says, "I regret some of my posts about President Donald Trump last week. They went too far."
Well, Khalil, hopefully all's well that ends well. There seems to be a bit of reconciliation. I don't think
there you go. You couldn't ask for more. You couldn't ask for more. That's the ending that you need.
Absolutely. Kiss it. Well, I don't want them to kiss, but I want them to make it.
Yeah, and they look so happy now. It's so much better. The world is such a better place.
It's a bit of
Listen. From my perspective, I hope that there is some level of reconciliation that lends itself to both of them being better human beings and being an example of what's possible at the highest level of leadership. And that's because we don't have to agree with politics or any of it. This is just, we're talking about this in the context of what does a healthy example of reconciliation look like at this stage?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And how do you do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, Elon's already said he regrets some of those posts. He was over the top, and that's great. And I think, not to defend him completely, but I think that there's an element of Asperger's in him, an element of hypermania, where he gets so incredibly focused and possessed. I mean, that's part of what's led to his enormous success. He gets absolutely obsessed with solving. And I think he probably got totally obsessed with this bill that he thought was going to be, and everything else didn't. So, I mean, and that's really maybe a final point, understanding each other, having a degree of understanding. I've got issues, you've got issues, we all have issues, we all have personality quirks and whatever. And let's just really give each other grace and understanding so that it can add to the pot of reconciliation and brotherhood.
Yes. And again, I hope that there will be some level of reconciliation for the good of the country, for the good. I mean, South Africa and the U.S., we have been allies at a global level.
Yeah.
We have been allies. So it's a relationship. My point is that there has been a relationship between America and South Africa. And it's now, yes, absolutely. And so we know that it can be good. We know that it can be better than it is now.
For sure.
And for me, the really great example is the fact that here you and I are everyday citizens doing a better example of modeling leadership and accountability than the people in power.
Well, look, I mean, let's be honest. I don't think politics always attracts the people it should. I think often the best leaders are the reluctant leaders. They don't want the platform, they don't want the accolades, but they want to make a difference. And I think sadly, politics often attracts the people who want the power and the planet, and the platform. Not always. There are those genuinely committed to public service, but I think they're probably quite rare, aren't they?
And I think it's a situation that can obviously draw the worst in us out
absolutely
by the nature of the relationship experience itself. So I'm not bashing politicians. We don't, we're not taking any particular political view, right or wrong. There's a need for some of us, at least, to try to go beyond the polarization of politics and actually talk to each other from the place of our own shared humanity.
Man, Khalil,
that's the value,
brother. If we can get that right, man, if we can just get people to go beyond labeling and boxing and just talk, as the derangement syndrome. It's so bizarre to watch. If you don't believe the same way as me, you're the devil incarnate. You're Hitler. You're this. It's just wow. Wow.
Well, brother, it's a joy having these conversations.
It's a great joy.
I'm really excited. I'm excited.
Me too.
Brother.
Me too. Yeah, and I'm excited about extending this to just helping as many people as we can, just to be human. Huh?
Yes. Yeah, to have a conversation where you are allowed to be honest, where you're encouraged to be honest, and where your honesty is your greatest asset for transformation. Fantastic. It's your greatest asset.
Let's be honest.
Let's be honest.